My mother-in-law wants us to file for bankruptcy for her debt.
I declare bankruptcy!
Is there someone in your life that you would actually do that for? If there was a world where my dog needed that, I would do that for her. I really would.
I could see that as a very real possibility.
This story is pretty fresh. It came March 17th, 2026. Buckle up, because this story is 20 plus years in the making. My husband, 29 male, and I, 27 female, are recently married, but we're college sweethearts and we have been together for 8 plus years. For context, I grew up in a big family that wasn't always well off, but it worked its way to upper middle class, and my parents are both still married. My husband came from a poorer background where his parents were divorced and his mom raised him. He really only saw his father for 1 to 2 holidays, or when they were both visiting the paternal side's family cabin at the same time. He lived with his mom, her boyfriends in plural, and one of his half-sisters. My husband, who was boyfriend at the time, was upfront that he intended on dating with the plan for marriage. As such, he was honest about his home life and also finances. One day, a year into the relationship, he let it slip that his mother had taken 4 credit cards out in his name while he was still a child. Illegal. Not sure how or when he found out, but his mom told him that she was paying them off. Naturally, I expressed how this was not okay and that he needed to get those accounts and cards in his control. He was hesitant to do so, believing that his mom was indeed paying them off. In hindsight, he was probably more hesitant because he still lived with his mother. He also didn't want to file for fraud because he didn't want his mom to go to jail. Understanding that his mom was a single mom of 2 kids and would have many financial struggles while raising them, I gave his mom the benefit of the doubt, but still nudged my hubby to monitor his mother's progress on paying them off every so often. The year after that, my hubby, boyfriend at the time, told me that he had to file for bankruptcy because of something unrelated to the credit cards that his mother did. From my understanding, when he was a toddler, his mother claimed him as being severely autistic and filed to receive disability payments from the state. They had been receiving these payments up until he was 23 or 24 years old. When I first met my hubby, he told me that he was autistic, and he truly believed that he was. I have a medical background that includes experiencing one-on-one with adults with autism and Asperger's. I can say with 95% certainty that this man is not autistic. But he definitely has ADD, which can be mistaken for autism sometimes. Apparently, the state was re-evaluating his case when he hit his early 20s and notified him and his mother that they were. While re-evaluating this case, the state was still sending them disability checks. Instead of not cashing the checks like you're supposed to do in this case, his mother just continued to cash the checks. A year later, the state determined that he should have never been receiving checks for disability and sent an invoice requesting repayment of over $20,000. The debt was in my hubby's name because the checks were for his disability. My mother has a background in law and finance, and I suggested they ask my mother for advice on this. Instead, he allowed his mom to help him, quote, file for bankruptcy, and was under the impression that the debt was gone. Fast forward to 2025, when we were wedding planning and living in our own place. At this point, I suggested that my husband finally get control of those cards and the accounts, since we will be sharing finances and we need to monitor those accounts. He agreed, but he wanted to wait until after the wedding because his mom was already causing problems with us while we were just trying to plan the wedding. She was picking random fights and being hostile to people that we employed to help plan the wedding. It was getting to a point that we were considering disinviting her from the wedding with how ridiculous her behavior was. I was fine with waiting until after the wedding. We also met with the finance people of my family to plan how we will join our finances. My brother was and is our financial planner. He looked over our finances and suggested that we meet with a colleague of his to discuss consolidating our debt. We met with this colleague who pulled up our credit reports, and we were shocked to see the scores and reports. debts. We knew mine wasn't going to be great, but hubby's score was normally in the 700s despite his mother's past antics, and it was now 590. The colleague shared his screen so we can see what the issues with our credit cards were, and I can feel my hubby tense up when he sees his report shows $20,000 plus in debt. Yeah, because it never got paid off. My hubby texted his mother about the debt. We learned that the state had still been sending letters stating this debt still needed to be paid, but they were being sent to his mother, who never shared them with us. She then told us not to worry and that declaring for bankruptcy will wipe the debt clean. This is where we realized that hubby hadn't declared bankruptcy all those years ago and that his mother just kept quiet about this, still being a problem for almost 4 years. I was livid at this point and I called my mother. My mother used to assist clients who filed for bankruptcy, while hubby's mom is texting nonstop trying to convince us to file for bankruptcy. My mom is explaining that doing that would make any financial big moves like buying a house, a car, etc. impossible for the next 10 years. There are fees costing thousands of dollars to just file for bankruptcy, and that it requires multiple court appearances. My mom was urging us not to do this. I wanted to find my mother-in-law and rip her hair plugs out of her scalp. Tell us how you really feel. Here we are trying to start a new life and hoping to start a family in the next 2 years, and his mother, who's already lived a life built on my husband's credit, has the nerve to tell us to give up our plans for the future so that the debt she caused by the disability checks and the 4 credit cards can get washed away. Not if I had anything to say about it. My husband was withdrawn after all of this. It was really starting to sink in how financially abusive his mother was. Her behavior before, during, and after the wedding also did not help. It seemed like every bridge my hubby tried extending to her, she was burning. He also reminisced on how his half-sister got more preferential treatment, having no fraudulent debt in her name, and being allowed to do gymnastics. When my hubby asked to join, he was only ever given a summer pass to the local pool. My mom was amazing and found the paperwork needed to file an appeal with the state on the $20,000 debt. My mom helped him fill out and file the papers. It can take months to years before the state even reviews the appeal and gives their verdict. We are still waiting to hear back, but my mom is confident that the appeal will go through. A few months after the wedding, my husband sat down with my mother-in-law and told her that we were now sharing finances and hoping to plan for a future where we could afford to start a family. We needed to monitor our credit and finances more closely. So he asked for the cards and the accounts and said that she would be paying him directly. She blew up. My husband did not tell me exactly what she said, but learned that she had been running credit checks on us when she told hubby to focus on getting me to stop opening cards. Our dog had to be rushed to a vet a week before this conversation because he was vomiting blood and fainting. He had extensive work done and we were worried about the cost. His mother knew that our dog was very sick and needed tons of medications. We had opened a care card online while waiting in the exam room to be able to pay for the vet bill. Don't worry, he is fine now, just a horrible case of gastritis. Oh no. Oh, I've heard about that. It does not sound fun. In addition to that revelation, his mother said some awful stuff to my husband about his flaws. He didn't tell me what she said, just said that she reminded him that he's worth nothing. From what my husband said, she was then yelling horrible things about me, and he blew up at her and quit his job at her restaurant. This is mayhem. It's causing me some indigestion. Before leaving, he told her that if he did not receive those cards and accounts in a month, he would be reporting fraud. I had no idea he planned on having this conversation that night, and I only found out when he texted me about it while I was at work. They went over 2 weeks not speaking to each other, which was the longest that I've ever seen. Although his mom is a piece of work, they were still pretty close. So the entire event surprised me. My husband was applying for new jobs, but was worried that it would take a while to find something. We took a page from his mom's playbook and he applied for unemployment to get some of the income supplemented in the meantime. After 2 weeks, his mom called him crying and wanting to make amends. They spoke, but no cards or accounts were handed over. Not long after that, mother-in-law sent my husband angry text messages saying, how dare he apply for unemployment and that she had to pay $300 because of it. My husband just rolled his eyes and ignored her. She wouldn't have to pay any more unemployment though because my husband was able to get a job after 3 weeks of searching. The hours aren't great, but the pay and benefits are good. Unfortunately, it has been well over a month and my mother-in-law still hasn't handed over the cards and accounts. I think she still sees her son as the non-confrontational guy he once was, but moving out and getting married gave him a spine and more confidence. My husband was forced to call the credit card companies and report the fraud. The accounts are shut down and she is now being investigated. It is up to the law if she's going to jail or not. Between what she said, her behavior regarding our wedding, and the financial abuse, we are now in low contact with her, and I don't think mother-in-law can repair the hurt that she put her son through. My husband has been visiting with my parents more. I'm thankful my parents are so loving as to welcome him in as their son. There are some days where he is the favorite child, to be honest. He needs parents that will be there for him and give adult advice without a hidden agenda. He has mother-in-law muted on all communications, so he can see the messages but can't get spammed when she finds out and loses her shite. Now we sit and wait. Now there's an edit on this post. Sorry, someone brought a few details to my attention that I should probably clarify or explain. I am a cardiac nurse. I'm good at math, but finance has never been my strong suit. When it came to the disability payments, I assumed that was a state issue and not federal. Hence why I kept referring to that as a state manner. Obviously, I had no hand in filing the paperwork. I just know that it was done. As far as my mother-in-law telling us she had to pay for our unemployment check, this one I'm also lost on just as much as you all are. I know this is not something the employer pays. I just know she claimed that she did have to pay it. I don't know if it's a manipulation tactic or what. I am just as confused as you all are. We filed all the cards as fraud and locked our credit. I'm not complaining, but I do want to share this story and bring parent-child financial abuse more awareness. That's a lot to take in.
That's what she said?
I don't even know how there's more to the story. Well, I guess we're gonna find out if she's going to jail. We'll see how it all plays out, hopefully. We're gonna check out some top comments so far. Let's see what the people of Reddit are saying. Someone commented and said, dude, no, do not marry this guy. His and his mother's debt will legally become yours. OP responded and said, kinda late for that. We are married. Hello, did you not hear the wedding thing? Considering one's fraud and one's likely to be appealed, we should be okay. Next comment, why did you marry this guy? Now it is your debt and your problem. I can't believe it took this long for him to grow up. His life is literally ruined because of her and now yours. This doesn't just go away overnight, especially since he has known about it. Ugh, low contact is not enough. She deserves jail. My mom was a single mom too, as are many others who don't put their children in financial ruin as toddlers. What a selfish woman. Let's also not forget, I'm really torn on the autistic thing because if she's claiming that to get a disability check and that was never true, that's a whole other issue in itself. I wonder if they're gonna like touch more on that. OP wrote back to that and said, I agree that she deserves jail and surviving 2 abusive relationships, I understand why my husband struggled to let go of someone that was hurting him. I wouldn't have married if my mom wasn't so confident in reversing the debt, and I love my husband. Next comment, she owns and runs a restaurant. That's a great job for somebody with a history of credit card fraud. There is no solution for your hubby other than going no contact with her. There is nothing in that relationship for him except more abuse. He needs to shut it down. She responded and said it is the only restaurant in a super small town, kinda has a monopoly. Next comment, please, both of you need to lock your credit on all 3 agencies. She responded, 100% agree. We have done that, but I can't stress this enough to others. Lock your credit and only unlock it when you need to run a check and then lock it again. That makes sense. I had to think about what was being said here. This is a little too smart for me, okay? I have a financial advisor for a reason. Next comment, how did your mother-in-law manage to get her SSN to do the credit checks? OP said, my best guess is that she was looking in my wallet when I was carrying my SSN in it. From what we guess, she only got the number in the last 1.5 years. I wouldn't be shocked if she was searching my bag when I went away to the bathroom or to grab something on a rare occasion that I did see her in person. I am 100% certain my husband wouldn't give her my SSN. He's always made it clear to his mom that I was his top priority and that he would pick me over her in a heartbeat. I didn't even think of that part. Crazy. Now, this is what she had to say on her husband who thought he had autism. Okay, maybe we'll get more clarity on this. She wrote, he genuinely believed that he had autism. We actually butted heads over this because I told him almost immediately that he was not autistic. His medical history from his childhood was also kind of a mystery. I am an RN and went with him to some of his appointments when we were dating. His mom claimed that he saw a certain MD who never had any notes on him and was no longer in practice. Many of these childhood illnesses he had as a kid were hard to validate and had to be retested. I 100% believe his mom somehow manipulated the system to get the medication and diagnosis that benefited her and that he believed her when she told him he had these issues. It is not uncommon in cases of abusive parents for this to happen. As we know, the Gypsy Rose Blanchard? Is that her name? The full name? That story, that documentary, I remember when I first watched it, the story, not even the ending, just like what the mother somehow got away with in the medical system was just mind-blowing. And if you haven't watched the full documentary, it blows my mind to this day. Wow, there's a lot of questions, but you know what? We need all the information we can get, so I'm happy. Someone else asked, why have you not canceled these credit cards? Lock down credit with all 3 agencies and then cancel the cards. You filed the appeal with disability, but is there anything else that you can do on that front? OP said, unfortunately, the appeal for disability is a waiting game, but we did also give the credit bureaus copies of the appeal to add to the notes about that debt. The credit card companies did close the card's accounts when we reported her fraud. And last question, if you guys went to an actual financial advisor to go over your credits and scores, why didn't these credit cards appear on your husband's credit? If his mother took them out in his name, they should have been there. Why is your husband even giving his mom timelines to hand over these cards? She won't do it. OP said, those cards were on the report. I only mentioned what was a surprise to us about the report, trying not to write an even bigger novel. I asked my hubby after the fact why he gave her a timeline because I also thought that was too generous. He wasn't too sure himself. His mom clearly has psych issues that aren't being treated. My guess is that it was time for her to cool off, reflect, get her head out of her ass, and do the right thing, which she obviously did not. We got some updates, but first, I need a sip of water, and so do you. I don't make the rules, it's Hydration Station. Cheers! To have a very serious discussion. I need to know, does anyone else eat the outside of their kiwi? When I was younger, I thought it was absolutely disgusting because of like the texture, the fuzz and all that. But then when I grew up and I became an adult, whatever, I totally eat it because I've heard that there's lots of nutrition and I actually just enjoy it. I also eat them like an apple. Anyone else? Do you eat the outside of a kiwi or not? All right, the next update was 9 days later. We are now at March 26th. I'm still scared to post an update on the situation because many people were mean in the comments. My husband had started a new job after leaving his mother's bar. This job paid more, gave more hours, and even had benefits. My husband met with my mother after one of his night shifts to help him compare my work benefits with his. During this meetup, my husband got help reporting the credit card fraud to the credit companies and the credit bureaus. What he thought was 2 credit cards turned out to be 5, with a total of $22,000 of debt from the cards, meaning she was likely still using the cards. He sent one last text to his mom telling her that she had her chance and that he was reporting the fraud. She sent a storm of responses claiming that my family was trying to brainwash him to turn him against her and blamed our financial situation on me. We have no idea where she gets that logic when I make 4 times what my husband did working for her, and I never took cards out in my husband's name. He showed my mother the responses that mother-in-law had sent him, and my mom lost her shite. Neither will tell me verbatim what the witch-in-law texted. All I know is that my mom changed her opinion from tolerate her in small doses to F her, cut that toxic beep out. Now that the fraud is reported, the card companies have closed the accounts and they are still investigating the matter. In my mom's experience, unless the amount is over $10K, which none of the cards totaled to individually, it's unlikely there will be jail time for her in the future. But it will go on her record. She will be on the hook for the debt and she will be fined. It won't be long until the fraud is traced to her since the cards had her contact information listed. As for the disability payments that the government wants back pay for, we are still in the waiting period as the last post mentioned for appealing the debt under my husband's name. We are still very confident that it will get approved since my husband met all the criteria for the appeal with a lot of proof provided. Whether that debt goes under his mom's name or is just forgiven, we will have to wait and see. The decision can take months to over a year, so we will be waiting a while. We are now no contact with mother-in-law. My husband rarely cries, but her abusive texts and behavior over the last year forced him to cut her off. He was still at my parents' house when he said goodbye for good and blocked her on everything. My parents reminded him that he is part of our family now and that he isn't without parents. They gave him a hug, which his bio parents never did, and they took him out for breakfast to make him feel better. My husband now has the most loving parents that he deserves, and I am proud to be from a family that loves and helps others. Parent-child financial abuse and exploitation isn't talked about enough. Kids in these situations don't always feel safe reporting the fraud because they fear losing basic needs like food and shelter, what they think is parental love, or the loss of other family relationships. Just like any abusive relationship, unless you have been in one, you have no idea how difficult it is to escape it. Now, we got a lot more info in the comments again, because this girl was just spending all her time on there. And thank God, the more information, the better, you know? Someone commented and said, I used to work for a water utility company and I've witnessed parental financial abuse firsthand. The worst one was a guy like your husband that had no idea his mom had taken out water service in his name. Unfortunately, one of the properties she had an account under his info had a water main break between the street and the house. The water bill was thousands of dollars. The look of total devastation on the guy's face when he was told he had to either file a police report against his mom or pay the bill is one I will never forget. Of course, his mom was there being loud and dramatic, saying that he wasn't going to file a police report against her and she wasn't going to pay. The police report was the only way the water charges would be removed from his info and put into his mom's name and info. OP responded and said, oh my God, I never thought about taking utilities out in a child's name, but I can see how easy that would be. I am thankful mother-in-law didn't expand to utilities now with how expensive it is these days. I didn't even know you could do that. How is it that easy for someone to do that? Next comment. What are your husband's sister's thoughts on the whole incident? Oh yeah, I forgot he has a sister because she's not doing this to her. OP said he has 2 half-sisters, one from dad, one from mom. I was the first person he had ever told about the finance stuff since he saw a future with me. His sisters never found out until just this month when everything really blew up. Both sisters keep mother-in-law at an arm's length because of of her toxic personality. My husband grew up living with Maddie, the one from mom. He and Maddie were treated very differently growing up. Maddie's father is from a native tribe that owns casinos. Mother-in-law gave Maddie preferential treatment growing up in hopes to get some of that money. Maddie has never been scared to call mother-in-law out on her crap because she knew her mom wanted that money. Maddie keeps mother-in-law at an arm's length and only sees her on occasions, but she isn't shocked that mother-in-law would commit identity theft towards her own son. She has been the one reminding mother-in-law that the only one she should blame for all of this is herself. It has been almost 3 years since Maddie got that tribe money. Mother-in-law has never seen a cent of it. Emmy, his other sister, was a bit more shocked, but not by a lot when she found out. But she hadn't seen mother-in-law in decades since hubby came to family functions without mother-in-law. Both sisters side with us and keep low contact with mother-in-law. We already knew she was the problem, so no surprise here. Next comment, you need to get your husband a new phone and also therapy. OP responded and said, we will definitely have to get him a new phone. I'm trying to get him to talk to a therapist, but he doesn't think he needs one. I'm trying to get him out of that don't seek help unless I'm dying mentality. Thankfully, the hospital I work for has a ton of mental health resources, including free telephone therapy for employees and their families and other virtual therapy options. Love that. I made it clear to my husband that there were confidential resources available and I showed him his options. Like many guys, he isn't one to seek help from a doctor unless he's dying or to talk about his feelings often. He isn't open to trying therapy right now, but I've made it clear the option is still there for him when he is ready. He also knows that I've seen a few therapists over the years, so he wouldn't get any judgment from me about seeing one. I love my therapist so much, because that doesn't always happen, that Matt is now with my therapist. Obviously, we don't speak about what is being said in our private sessions. It's not allowed, like with her. But he tried a different therapist for a while and just wasn't seeing progress, wasn't really meshing. It just wasn't helping. And so I was like, why don't you go see mine? And he's been having a great time so far. Like, he's seen a lot of progress from it. Next comment. Just to be clear, did your husband also report the fraud to the police? And good for him for cutting her off. That had to be very hard for him. She said he could not bring himself to file a police report. In some cases, a police report is required to clear debt from fraud, but in this case, none of those creditors required one. But creditors will be submitting their findings surrounding the fraud to the police, which is how she would face penalties. She put no effort in making herself untraceable since she thought her son would let this continue for who knows how long. Next comment. I'm glad that things are looking up since last time, but something I thought about reading your last post was that this sounds like a situation where you should hire professionals who aren't related to you. IIRC, your mom is familiar with this kind of situation, but not actually a lawyer, and your brother was your financial advisor until recently, which is sort of an issue when you're dealing with a situation that is A, super emotionally fraught, and B, pretty complicated and serious. It would be a good idea to hire someone who can double check to make sure your mother-in-law did not do anything else. Someone who doesn't have to take their relationship with your husband and you into account. She responded and said, that's a fair assessment. My work provides financial counseling and legal advice for free, so it wouldn't hurt to have someone look over things again. Getting an outside, unbiased opinion might help, but what do I know? Really. And the last comment, the part about him just wanting a parent's love and being gaslit into thinking the abuse was normal is honestly the saddest thing I've read all week. Financial abuse from a parent is so insidious because the child spends years defending the very person that's hurting them. OP said, that was the part that put a strain on our relationship too. I could see that he knew she was horrible to him, but he couldn't let go. No matter how much I told him that his mom was a horrible person, he made it clear he would always choose me over her, so I just let her tear her own relationship apart. This is pretty wild. Very curious to know what your guys' thoughts are on this. Let me know. I'll see you in the comment section. Stay classy out there. Stay sassy. Bye.